to Season 6 of 2000's Childhood Pop. My name is Mr. 96. It's been 5 years since I started this series as a spin-off to my normal pop reviews, but strangely enough, 2000 CP has become the one I'm most excited to work on every day. So with today's episode, I left the song choice to a poll on my Patreon page, and though it had to come to a tiebreaker, I decided to give the edge to one song I'm sure you've all heard before.
The girl them skill chick. Thunderball.
Yes, we will be looking back at the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Paul, whose lovely tongue enchanted us for years as we had no idea what the fuck he was saying.
Just give me the light and pass the draw. Pass another bacalamo. Gonna look and I got to know which one ain't gonna catch my flow.
I miss Niga Higa. This song was originally requested by Prideful Zella, so if you want to know more about how you can suggest songs for me to review on Patreon, stay tuned until the end of the video. Anyways, I want to start by describing how this song relates to my childhood. Throughout this series, I've usually picked songs that I have distinct memories of from when I was a kid in the 2000s, but at other times, I'm lenient enough to stretch that qualifier to songs or projects I was generally aware of. Today's song leans slightly towards the latter, as I only briefly heard it during those days. When it comes to songs I pick for 2000's Childhood Pop, there are 6 categories in regards to how I heard these songs. A, it came from 2009. B, I actually listened to it as a kid. C, America's Best Dance Crew. D, music-based video games. E, pop music CD commercials. Or F, vague pop culture awareness. So here's a commercial I watched a lot in 2006.
I got the right temperature.
20 of the hottest hits from your favorite superstar artists with Sean Paul.
And that's my connection to this song. If you were around in 2006, Temperature by Sean Paul was everywhere, and it not only dominated the airwaves, but solidified his legacy as one of dancehall's greatest artists. For those of you who are much younger, you probably know Sean Paul as that Jamaican guy who shows up on other people's songs spitballing a bunch of barely legible words, but it shouldn't go unnoticed when I say that Sean Paul in the early to mid 2000s was a legit superstar.
Just give me the light and pass the joe. What's another buckle of more?
Around the end of 2002, dancehall artist Sean Paul came out of nowhere when he dropped his second studio album, Dirty Rock, which would go on to certify 2 times platinum in the US and has now sold 7 million copies worldwide. Gimme the Light put him on the map, but his first #1 hit in the US came in the next single, Get Busy.
Yo, sexy ladies want power with us. You know they car with us, them not war with us.
If you're aware of how notoriously stingy the American music industry was in the early 2000s, any music seen as foreign, especially from people of color, was not seen as commercially viable by executives. But dancehall and reggae were going through their own revolution at the time, and Dirty Rock was a major reason for its massive breakout in popularity. Of course, it wouldn't have even seen the light of day had another dancehall song not become an accidental hit a few years earlier.
Honey came in and she got me red-handed, creepy with the girl next door.
I'm sure you've heard of this little song before. Believe it or not, it was never meant to be promoted and only became recognized because some DJ in Hawaii got it off Napster. In modern terms, it got leaked. I honestly recommend you all check out the Vice video on It Wasn't Me, as it's truly an excellent documentary on how the song became the phenomenon we know today. I'll even link the video in the description below. Anyways, as a result of great timing, as well as his songs being loved, Sean Paul became a big name across the world. But if he wanted to show he wasn't just a one-album wonder, he had to come back hard on that follow-up record. In late 2005, he released his third album, The Trinity, and he also dropped the lead single off that album, which would end up becoming another major hit. We Be Burnin'.
Every day we be burning, not concerning what nobody wanna say.
I think it's a nice track. Okay, not bad at all. Peaked at number 6, which should definitely carry the album. Surely the follow-up single in the States will at least be an okay success, right?
The girl them skill chick. Thunderball.
If you haven't guessed by now, Temperature would peak higher than number 6. It managed to reach number 1 on the weekly charts and ended up at number 2 on the year-end Hot 100. But the question is this: is it actually good? Personally, I'd argue it is pretty damn good, so let's talk about it. One thing about most of Sean Paul's music up to that point was that it mainly exuded a relaxed vibe. He had plenty of party songs on Dirty Rock, and even the low-energy tunes like Gimme the Light or I'm Still in Love with You have you feeling pretty mellow and joyous. Well, at least Gimme the Light. 4 years ago, I put I'm Still in Love with You at number 5 on my 2004 worst list, and that opinion has not changed one bit because it's a boring ass song. Thankfully, Temperature is not that.
Well, on the way the time cold, I wanna be keeping you warm.
With Temperature, it goes for a different energy as it's a love song with tons of musical tension. It still has that strong dancehall rhythm, but he wants to let her know that he'll shelter her with his warmth, as the lyrics detail more than you assume.
But also there was like a comparison of violence in the song. There was a lot of violence happening in Jamaica at the time, so I used like the storm as the violence. And I was like, I'm the man to shelter you from the storm. I'm the person you listen to get away from all of that.
On another note, I have to point out that the music video is absolutely fantastic. It's a very simple premise of going through the 4 seasons in order with a thermometer dropping and rising, but it's visually vibrant and has stuck in my mind for all these years. I also think it's cool that it starts with autumn and ends with summer. So by the end, things between him and his lady are getting hot. I see what you did there. But when I really look at the song in terms of its composition, it manages to be lengthy yet brief at the same time, which you don't realize upon first listen. As far as the structure of the song is concerned, one thing I noticed was that the verses and choruses are all extremely short. Each section is exactly 8 measures in 4/4 with no instrumental to provide a gap between them. So it's just intro, chorus, second verse, chorus, third verse, chorus, fourth verse, chorus, first verse again, chorus, then outro. But when you look at the total length, it's only about, 3.5 minutes long? Regardless of what you think of Sean Paul as an artist, his lyricism and singing are his greatest assets for better or worse. As a result, Temperature is a Sean Paul showcase where he goes through a dozen short sections back to back with no breaks in between. You know how when someone talks about a song they like, they always say, "Man, it's got a nice beat." Well, with Sean Paul, he is the beat. Think about it. Everyone vibes to Sean Paul's music despite not understanding him, but perhaps we've been looking at this the wrong way. Maybe they vibe to his music because they don't understand him. You know how some people say mainstream rappers don't really make interesting lyrics and that everything is just random words to fit a flow? Well, to many people, Sean Paul might as well fit that concept. And to be clear, I don't think that's a fair sentiment towards the man. Obviously, I don't speak patois, so I'm certain his music means a lot more to the people of Jamaica than to me or Bob from Mississippi. It's like how you're totally allowed to like foreign music even if you don't understand the lyrics, but you're aware it means something to someone else. So let's go ahead into the final verse and see what he has in store.
Then girl, I wanna be the papa, you can be the mom. Calling all wild out squadron.
Wait. What the hell's this? Okay, apparently this is not the final verse of Temperature and is actually Sean Paul's song Breakout, which was another track off the Trinity and is suddenly in this music video for some reason. Seeing as we were still in the MTV era at the time, I guess this was a method for him to promote the album, but why just shove a teaser at the end of the Temperature music video while also cutting off the final verse and chorus? Actually, this isn't the first time Sean Paul has done this, as he pulled a similar stunt in his Get Busy video.
Let's get it on till I heard them all.
Yo, light up the place up on the radio, Sean Paul.
So me go so then.
Drink it up. Light up.
Yeah, he abruptly transitions into about a minute of his song Like Glue, but unlike with Breakout, where that was an album track he tried to spotlight, Like Glue didn't need that tease as it ended up being the next single anyways. But when I really think about it, didn't Jim Jones pull the same shit with We Fly High?
I got money on my mind.
Seriously, why was this such a trend in the 2000s? I'd love to ask Sean Paul himself, but unfortunately he's not available on Cameo as of right now. But one thing that surprises me about Temperature is that it ended up being his last major hit as a solo artist. I specify solo artist because he did end up having a top 5 hit later that year with Give It Up To Me featuring Keisha Cole, which was part of the soundtrack to the first Step Up movie. But after that, Sean Paul never had another top 40 hit in the US as a lead artist. The closest he got was in 2009 with his song So Fine.
Girl, just let me be there for you anytime. It's so fine.
I always thought this was a good track and should have been bigger, even in a great year like 2009. I do remember Beach of Feet Kings performing to a Bollywood remix of it on season 4 of ABDC, which was still the worst season by the way. Afterwards, all his high-charting songs were as a feature artist, at least in the States. I distinctly remember him in Jay Sean's Do You Remember, which I used to play on loop back in the day. There was also the song Bailando by Enrique Iglesias, which was pretty big. Of course, he was on the remix of See As Cheap Thrills, and you probably remember him on Rockabye by Clean Bandit. Despite him mostly being known as a feature artist these days, it's not like the dude stopped releasing tracks on his own. In 2011, he released Got to Love You, which was a massive hit around the world with 400 million views on YouTube, and around 2017, he released No Lie with a relatively under-the-radar Dua Lipa at the time. It peaked at number 10 on the UK charts and just recently surpassed 1 billion views on YouTube. He even released a studio album last year and has a new one coming out in late May, so much respect to him for keeping up the grind. Overall, I think Temperature is a very good song and one of Sean Paul's best tracks. When it comes to 2006, people like to shit on Bad Day by Daniel Powter being number 1 on the year-end Hot 100, but I think people are pretty warm on Temperature at number 2, no pun intended. Even though I didn't know Sean Paul by name until 2009, I did remember a bit of Temperature, so it's been a lot of fun getting to listen to his biggest hit in full. Check it out if you haven't.
Then girl, I wanna be the papa, you can be the mom. Oh, oh.
Thanks for the wait, and I want to give massive thanks to Prideful Zella for suggesting this song, and to my patrons on Patreon for all their support. For just $1 per video, you can join my patron-only Discord server where we chat and chill, and at $2 per video, you get to vote on what songs I review for my series 2000s Childhood Pop. At $5 per video, you get to be listed in my Names of Fame, and at $10 per video, you get a personal shout through the heart along with Jason Semler and Prideful Zella. So to my $2 patrons and above, click the link in the description below to help suggest the next song for me to review. Once again, I'm Mr. 96. If you want to see more pop reviews, click the subscribe button below and tap that bell to be notified when I drop a new episode. The good news is that I'm getting videos out at a decently faster rate than last year at least, so look forward to more content. Pop songs may come in numbers, but there's only one. 96.
너의 그 말 그 잔인한 말 가슴 아픈 말 칼날 같은 말 너의 그 말